We are Ontario First Nations Technical Services Corporation, engineers and technicians helping First Nations solve complex infrastructure problems. Access to clean drinking water is a basic human right, but countless First Nations children in Ontario have never had a drink of clean water from a tap. We must first understand the triggering events causing First Nation boil water advisories. The reasons are many. They include mechanical breakdowns, inadequate cash flow for parts and chemicals, inability to secure needed parts and transportation of those parts, absentee operators, low and inadequate water pressures and volumes in the system, source contamination introduced by human activity in source waters, chemical treatment errors by operators, natural contaminants occurring in the source water, plant operator errors, pump breakdowns, and vandalism by community members. While the triggering events may be important, we really need to understand the causes. Superficially, the causes include maintenance mistakes by operators who don't have the skills and knowledge and experience, poorly maintained equipment and infrastructure, failure to repair and maintain backup pumps when they go down, improper or no sampling by operators, inadequate cash flow for ongoing maintenance, operations, and regulatory activity, poor access to labs, decrepit infrastructure, undersized systems and treatment plants, no recourse when operators lack the capabilities or don't show up to work, failure to secure equipment and wells, plants that are just too complex for the operators, no qualified monitors and supervisors. While understanding the superficial causes is helpful, we really need to understand the underlying or root causes to solve the problems. These include elected officials who lack the technical knowledge, little to no proactive maintenance of systems, no regulatory enforcement when deficiencies are noted, elected officials not being made aware of deficiencies, no recourse when operators refuse certification and training, no quality control and monitoring systems, very poorly designed distribution systems, and decades of chronic underfunding. This brings us to the technical solutions. We can look at a problem from a short-term perspective or a long-term perspective. The reality is, drinking water is needed now. Therefore, it is important to take a two-path approach. We have to start down both paths simultaneously, dealing with short-term issues and also moving towards long-term solutions. The most important of these solutions is putting elected officials in the driver's seat with the information, financial resources, and tools to direct and oversee their public utilities. Elected officials need to also select technical standards, guidelines, and operator certification standards. If water is to be regulated by a body that licenses and enforces regulations, elected officials must authorize and fund that regulatory body. If water is self-governed, elected officials need to divide accountabilities for operating drinking water systems and technical oversight of those systems. If systems are complex, elected officials appoint and fund a capable operating authority, also called a public utility or system operator. They need to implement life cycle maintenance programs and long-term asset planning for system growth and replacement. For very low complexity systems, elected officials may choose to appoint a highly capable operator with some outside monitoring of risks. How can OFNTSC help First Nations in Ontario with their drinking water systems? For 25 years, we have offered engineering and technical services on an ad hoc basis. Effective June 2020, we've been funded as a water hub to provide regular technical services to First Nations not affiliated with a tribal council. We can complete a drinking water system health check, identifying mechanical, operational, training, and backup issues, with proposed plans and budgets to correct these deficiencies. First Nations with more complex water systems or insufficient capacity to manage their systems, we would explore arrangements to become your technical monitor or water system operator. We can help with long-term planning and budgeting, including asset replacement, life cycle maintenance, operator certification, and operational effectiveness. We can train your water operators for free through our Circuit Rider training program. Our First Nations sometimes ask how we can play a more significant role in supporting their clean water objectives. The answer depends on their regulatory approach. If a nation chooses self-regulation, we can serve as your designated water authority or perform health checks of your own water operations. If the nation chooses enforced self-regulation, we can lead a quality management approach like ISO certification. If they choose more formal regulatory approaches, we can serve as the water authority who liaises with the Water Commission or water regulator. This assumes that a First Nations regulator is created by First Nations in Ontario. With effective governance, resources, and capable water authorities to operate their systems, First Nations can gain full control of their water utilities, delivering safe drinking water to their nation. We are Ontario First Nations Technical Services Corporation, supporting our First Nations in achieving technical self-reliance.